All right, welcome everybody. Thank you all for being here. So excited to see such a great big group, and this is such an important topic. My name is Lisa Hart. I'm with the LA Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance. Please go ahead and introduce yourselves. If you can, enter your neighborhood council if you know what neighborhood council you're with, and or your organization next to your name or pronouns on your little Zoom screen. It's 2024. You'd think I'd know by now what that little square is called, but I I don't. And please also enter into the chat your name, your neighborhood council or affiliation if you have one. Also your zip code. We don't normally ask for that, but we actually need it tonight because we are doing this for a grant with DWP. So we actually need to know a little bit. We don't need to know everything about where you live, but we do need to know a little bit. We'd love to know what brought you here this evening and whether you're here in your capacity as a homeowner, a renter, a condo owner, which I didn't think of until moments ago, and or landlord. That would be super helpful for us and for you because we do want to tailor the conversation to you. So we want to know what hat you're wearing tonight so that this conversation tonight is as useful to you as possible. Our mission, and our meaning the LA Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance, is to advance sustainability and resilience across the city through advocacy, sharing of best practices, and community action. We have several very active committees and working groups. Those are advocacy, energy, transportation, trees, and not terribly active right now, working group, which is sustainability guidelines for developers. But if you want to get that active, please let me know. And if you want to join any of those, you can let me know or get on our website and get involved with any of those. They're open to anybody in LA. We have a little housekeeping. You might have noticed tonight's meeting, I should say, is being recorded. Please do go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. If you're just joining, please let us know what zip code you are in, and also if you are a renter, a homeowner, a condo owner, or a landlord or a landlord. And you can use the raise hand feature to participate. We will be focusing on our panelists for the first portion of the meeting, but then we will be opening this up. We'll try to be very participatory and want to hear from all of you for the bulk of the meeting. We do have some community agreements that we will be getting to, and then we will have some evaluations in a bit. Okay. And then I want to introduce the board, which I don't seem, okay, I think we're done with the slides. I hope we're done with the slides. Okay, my board, if I can see you. Charles, can you please introduce yourself?
Happy to do so. My name is Charles Miller. I'm on the board. I'm also on the board of the Palms Neighborhood Council, and where I chair the Green Committee, and also involved in LA Climate Reality Project.
Wonderful, thank you. And Alex?
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Tangelos. Hopefully you can hear me. I've been having mic issues today. I'm also on the board of the LANCSA. I was the former sustainability chair of the Wilshire Center Koreatown Neighborhood Council. And I guess I should start adding to my spiel that I'm the Southern California sustainability chair at my law firm, Cooley LLP.
Oh, cool. I did not know that.
Yeah,
wow.
That just happened.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And Muriel?
I was just about to put in a fun Zoom reaction for Alex, but I'm also a fellow, my name is Mariel Nakar, she, her, I'm a fellow steering board member. I'm the current transportation chair I'm the current chair of the transportation committee. I was part of the EPNC, the Park Neighborhood Council, as a board member. I was their sustainability chair. What was the rest of the prompt, Lisa?
I think that's great.
Okay.
And we have another board member, Aurora, who cannot be here tonight. This is not our regular meeting night. And I think that's it for that. We want to dive into the topic. Oh, I don't think I reviewed our community agreements. I think I overlooked that. But I don't think this is such a controversial topic that will be complicated, but the gist is we want to be respectful. We want to be succinct, and we want to give people space and also take up space, right? We want to participate and also make space for others and give people the benefit of the doubt. I think that's the gist of them. I'm going off the top of my head. And we have an evaluation, as I mentioned. And so let me reiterate, because I want to make sure that everybody has heard this. And I'm going to ask Charles and others to let me know what you folks think. I mean, what Charles, you and our fellow board members think. If you folks have, if you're a renter or a condo owner or a homeowner or a landlord, if you're wearing one of those hats tonight, please put that in the chat, because we would like to know, because we want to tailor our conversation to you appropriately. We want this to be as meaningful to you as possible. Also, we would like you to put in your zip code, because we are doing this in partnership with DWP, and DWP wants to know roughly where you live. So please do put that in the chat, and then I'm going to ask Charles and Muriel and Alex, because they can see the chat a little bit more easily than I can right now, to let us and the panelists know what it's looking like. And to me, it's looking like the vast majority of you are homeowners. So that's actually very helpful for us to know. So if there are no tenants here, I'm a renter. So for me, this conversation, anyway, but if I'm the only renter here, then we will not tailor this conversation for renters. Frank, you're a renter? Okay, yeah. So, all right, I would like for us to begin the panel. So if my fellow board members can please spotlight the panelists, I will just say a couple words about this conversation. We really do need to get off gas. And I think that's how I'm going to start this conversation, by asking our panelists why they think we need to get off gas. The other thing is, there is a lot, and you'll learn tonight, there is a lot of really, really fresh, new information about this. This information is coming quickly, and it's so new that the panelists tonight will not know all the information, because some of these incentives are coming out right now, like as we speak. So we will not know everything tonight. A lot of this is new, and we will be learning a lot more in the coming months. So please be patient with us. But we will all be learning together. This is really, really exciting. We're sort of in the Wild West right now. So you are truly, if you are going to be on this adventure with us, you will be early adopters, and that can be very exciting and can sometimes be frustrating, but we will be on this adventure together. So let's dive into it. I think I will start. Well, actually, I think I'll start with anybody who wants to take this first one. Why is it that the federal government and LADWP and the LANCSA, which is our organization, and Switches On and Southern California Edison and US Green Building Council and everybody else, why do we all want to electrify? Why are we all saying it's so important to get off gas? What's the urgency behind this? Anybody want to take that one? Okay, well, somebody has to take that one.
Okay, I'll dive in, Lisa.
So, and please introduce yourself before you start.
Certainly. My name's Doug MacMillan. I'm an import from New Zealand. I've been here for 24 years and I'm an energy efficiency enthusiast. I've spent the last 7 years getting off gas. So trying to figure out how to do it, made some mistakes, and I'm now completely off gas, both in my house and for my vehicle as well. I consider myself as an educator. My house is open for you to visit anytime. I'm happy to talk with you anytime to share with you my experiences. Why do you want to get off gas? Because one, it's healthy. Gas in your home is responsible for about 13% of childhood asthma. And of course, it's bad for the environment as well. There are way more efficient ways of cooking, for example, than using gas, and way more efficient ways of heating your water because, for example, water heating takes, from what I've read, up to 75% of your energy bill just to heat water. And there are some very efficient ways to do it. And I've only found some of these out over the past 4 years. And not even the contractors knew about what I introduced them to. So that's my brief intro. I could go on forever, but no, I won't.
Thank you. And actually, in California, the gas being burnt in your home is actually thought to contribute to 20% of asthma cases. So it's actually worse in California. So that's really serious. That's a huge, huge reason. So thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody else want to add to the reasons? It looks like you would like to, Dave.
Yeah, I'll
And please
go. Yeah,
introduce yourself.
my name is Dave Intner. I'm an architect with Southern California Edison. I work in our codes and standards program, doing outreach, education, and policy work related to decarbonization and energy codes. Um, and the biggest driver policy-wise, in addition to all the great reasons in terms of health and energy savings and everything that Doug mentioned, is climate change. We're seeing extreme weather events that are breaking historic norms on the regular. You see it in the news every day, some sort of record-breaking event, whether it's an extreme heat wave, whether it's a Category 5 hurricane, it's wildfire ripping through areas that haven't historically seen wildfire, and just happening, 1,000-year storms happening every few years kind of thing, right? So, all the entities that Lisa mentioned at the outset are aligned on the policy front to recognize that it's anthropogenic climate change, man-made. The burning of fossil fuels is the major contributing factor, and we need to change course. The good news is that the solutions are there. We don't need to invent our way out of this. We just need to apply the off-the-shelf, ready-to-go technologies that we have available to us. Those will continue to iterate and get better over time and get more cost-effective, more affordable, more feature-rich. But the time to wait for what's coming down the road is gone, and it's time to take action now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We do have such exciting technology. I really appreciate that. Okay, I do say we do have some renters, so it's not just Frank and me in the room who are renters. There are some others and several condo owners, which is helpful. And also, I saw that the chat is active, which reminds me that's another community agreement we have. Please do feel free to use the chat, but just stay on topic is our community agreement regarding the chats. And that question that I saw in the chat is one of the big ones for the night. So it's about cost. So let's get to that in a minute. Valentina or Frank, do you want to chime in about reasons to do this?
Yeah, I completely agree with Dave and Doug.
And
I don't
please
know that I
introduce
have.
yourself, Frank.
Oh, yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Frank. I'm with the Switches On, and I manage our community outreach for California. The Switches On is basically a resource hub for California residents who are looking to electrify their homes. We have two main tools on our website, the Incentive Finder, where you can find incentives in your region, and a Contractor Finder, where you can find qualified contractors to install the appliance that you're looking for. That can also make you eligible to receive the incentives in your area. So that is the Switches On, and we have a lot of educational materials on electric appliances on our website. So feel free to check out that website whenever you can. And our main focus as an organization is right along the lines of what has already been said. We really focus on how an electric home is healthier for your family. You know, these toxins that are released into your home kind of stay in your home forever, and it contributes to your family's health. And also, electric appliances are a lot safer than gas appliances, especially when thinking about stoves in particular. And you have little ones or aging adults, and just the open flame. I haven't been on gas. Well, I have gas, but I use an induction hob as a renter. And just the idea of having fire in your kitchen is so wild to me now. So that is what we try to inspire residents to think about. You know, think about your health and potential cost savings when it comes to switching over to electric.
Thank you. Valentina, go for it. Introduce yourself and chime in. And you should also, of course, introduce your organization for anybody who doesn't know about it, because your organization is really now a statewide powerhouse.
Yeah, we are, well, I'm Valentina Mejia. I'm the outreach manager for US Green Building Council, California. We were just covering LA, but this year we switched to cover all the state. And I'm actively working with residents in LA County mainly. And what I've seen, we're also applying surveys, and we want to understand from the residents' perspective, how are they feeling about these, or what are their needs? And we try to create this dialogue with them, which is very important. And what we've seen is a lot of like housewives that are afraid of the gas. That's one of the main reasons because what the main reasons they express to change to electric appliances. That's being very, very interesting, because they are really, really afraid about using gas. They had some like bad experiences at home. So this is like an important factor that I've seen this last year that I've been doing, applying surveys with the residents.
Yeah, and I just want to chime in and say, I was just last night reading something from the American Lung Association that I just posted on our website last night. And I'm starting to see it the way that Frank was talking about it. When you realize that we are so accustomed to burning, like combusting things in our homes and just breathing that air, if you start realizing how really truly wrong that is, it really, you start getting that that's just not really the way we should be breathing. And it's so common, apparently, I mean, I'm learning that our indoor air pollution is actually significantly worse than outdoor air quality. Oh, and we should talk about this little gadget. Do you want to talk about this little guy, Doug? Oh, you're muted.
It sounded like you were muted. I gave Lisa a CO2 meter to test, and this measures the carbon dioxide content around the meter, and outside it reads around 400 parts per million. Inside that reads 418. So inside, Lisa, that's really, really good. If it gets over 1,000, you're starting to get a little bit sleepy. If you're getting to 2,000, your thinking is degraded. So that is a cheap meter. It costs $50, and it gives you an idea of what your CO2 levels are around the house. And you're quite correct, the air outside your house is cleaner than the air inside your house. So that CO2 meter was a way for Lisa to make some measurements. Did you take any measurements while you were cooking?
I did not. I have not done that.
That's your homework. Put that by your
Yes, I have a lot of homework.
Put that by your gas stove next time you do some cooking.
And I actually do have an induction stove, but I have not, anyway, it's a long story. I have not been using it recently, but I have one and I need to get back to it. I have a lot of homework in my life. Yes, I know. Yes. So Alan asked a great question in the chat. which was about the cost to make the transition. So I would love for any of you to take that one on. Is it more expensive to make the transition? What does that entail? Go ahead, Doug.
Well, I've made that transition on all my appliances. So you've got to look at two things. What is the initial cost, and then what is the payback time? For example, as I said before, the water heater consumes most of the energy in your house, whether it's gas or electricity, but your water heater has a lifetime of about, the gas ones anyway that I looked into, have a lifetime of about 8 to 10 years, whereas the hybrid electric water heaters, they cost a little bit more. They're about $1,500 to about $1,800, but they use 1/4 the power of an electric water heater alone, and they'll pay themselves back in about 3 or 4 years. So you've got to look at repayment time.
So I would,
And you did all of this without any incentives, right? Without any rebates, I'm assuming, or I don't know.
I just did it by myself because it's the right thing to do. So I've learned, and my goal is to be able to learn and share. And I've done it with everything else in the house as well, but there's someone else who wanted to speak, so I'll let them speak.
Dave, go ahead.
yeah, from a retrofit situation, the costs are definitely going to vary based on your existing conditions. The most important thing is to come up with a plan. If you're, you want to consider electrification primarily, I mean, as soon as possible, but the equipment that is nearing end of life, that's when you want to have a plan for replacing that with the electric alternative. And your cost picture should not be the total cost of the job, because that, it's important, right? But you want to look at, okay, if I was going to replace like for like versus like for electric, right? Gas for electric, because that's really the delta you're looking at. The reality is your equipment's going to wear out at some point anyway. You're going to need to replace it with electric. And if you're considering that incremental cost, and then you're considering the additional incentives that help you make up any difference between that, and in many cases that difference is negligible. For instance, there are plenty of induction stoves that are available that are cost competitive with gas stoves that have equivalent performance, from a high-end cooking perspective. Then that's really where your sweet spot's going to be, and make sure you're factoring in those incentives, because they will really help. On the new construction front, we're seeing on the residential side that most builders at this point are going all electric, because the codes with the requirements for putting in electric infrastructure, you already have that as a fixed cost. So avoiding the gas infrastructure altogether actually makes the project cheaper. So, in new construction, we're seeing a strong preference towards electric at this point in the state, with the energy codes as they are. But existing buildings, because of the variety of existing conditions, make it a bit more complex.
Yeah. And Valentina, this might be a good time. Yeah, I was thinking I'd love to hear about, go talk about your work and what you've seen. The floor is yours.
I mean, we've been installing heat pumps the last year. So I've been working like very close with the residents, and that's the main question always. And we are also applying surveys, but I can say in the case of water heaters specifically, what we've seen is the bills, of course, comparing gas with electric, the bills are almost, in our preliminary evaluations are showing that is the same or even less, the cost. And we work very close with TechLink California. We are working with those incentives. And what we saw also in the customer experience and satisfaction study from 2023, they did like this wide survey about water heaters, and 51% of the bills were lower. 24% didn't change, and 19% were unsure. So it's really, in the case of the water heaters, you can replace for gas, and maybe it won't go out. We saw like just the 7% were higher. So those are like the preliminary studies that Tech Clean California provided us, and that's what I'm saying to the owners. You can start with your water heater, and the percentage or the probability that the bill will go up, it's very low.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. I think I'm feeling like it might be time to start talking about a bunch of incentives. There's the Inflation Reduction Act, which I think we're supposed to be calling HERA now, or that's the program that's coming out of the Inflation Reduction Act. Dave, you look ready to go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, just to clarify, the HERA is the state rebates that are funded through the Inflation Reduction Act, but the tax credit portion of the Inflation Reduction Act is available now and has been for the last year and a half. So that is, you need tax liability to claim those tax credits, but those are already in place. The HERA is rolling out, and I think the first phase of it is multifamily, but Frank might know more about the latest than I do. Yeah.
Distinction.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, I'm learning as it's released. I feel like things are constantly getting moved around when it comes to tech's relay of information to us. But he is right. There are some incentives, HERA incentives coming out. They're going to be live from, last I heard, October 23rd for heat pump HVAC systems. So the potential incentive is between $4,000 to $8,000. However, it depends on your income. So there are income qualifications, and the income is kind of based on your area median income. I don't know what that is. I do know, however, I spoke with Tech right before this call, and they are going to be releasing a tool where you will put in all your information. It's a secure tool, so your privacy will be kept, but you put in all your information, and you will see if you qualify for that incentive or not. And during this process, you work with your contractor as well, who will help you along this application process. So there is income qualifications, and what you get back varies on how much you make. And there will be a tool to help you see if you're eligible. And that tool will also be accessible on the switcheson.org. So you can access all the applicable information to apply come next week on our website.
And there were, just so folks know, that's for single family homes.
Correct. Yep. Single family homes. And one more thing, Lisa, that I want to share with everyone that's important to note is your contractor has to be HERA certified. So if they're not HERA certified, you will not be eligible to receive that rebate. And you can see if they're HERA certified also on the switcheson.org and our contractor finder. There will be a list of contractors. All the contractors there are Tech Clean California certified, but that doesn't matter for this. They have to also have the little badge that says they're HERA certified. So if they have that badge, they're good. You're good to go. And also, you can layer the HERA incentives with Tech Clean California incentives. So they're layerable. So you can get a lot off of your heat pump HVAC system, which can bring the costs way down.
Yeah, okay. I know we're really getting into the weeds, and there's a lot of information here. Dave, do you want to chime in on anything right now? No, if you don't have to.
No, just to note that in addition to what Frank laid out for the rebates, the tax credit for heat pumps is $2,000, and the tax credits are annually renewable. So if you do your heat pump HVAC this year, you could get up to $2,000. It's like up to 30% of the installed cost. But if you're putting in an HVAC system, you're gonna spend more than 6,000 probably. And then you know put in a water heater the following year or a couple years later, you can take advantage of that again. So yeah, and then there's like I think in concert with that, there's like $600 worth of tax credit for electrical upgrades that may be necessary. So whether you upgrading the panel or not, if you just need to run the line, that there's allowances for that. There's also money in the tech program for electric upgrades. So all of these things stack together, and you can layer them. It's not like you have to pick one or the other. They, you know, most of these programs can kind of build on each other to help draw down the costs.
Yeah, it's what I call stackable incentives. Because there are lots of like DWP has incentives. Okay, there are these HERA incentives. And just so you guys know, there are South Coast AQMD is going to have some fantastic incentives. I learned about them because I'm on this environmental justice advisory group with South Coast AQMD. They're going to have some fantastic incentives that most of LA City is going to be eligible for. They're not income qualified. It gets a little complicated, so not everybody in LA is going to be eligible for them, but most of LA is. They're going to be easier to get and less administratively complicated than the HERA incentives. And they're going to be for single family and multifamily homes and businesses. So, and they're going to be stackable too. So there's going to be a smaller pot of money. So it's going to go, people are going to go through it pretty quickly, but I just want you to know, like, there's a lot. And that should, I think they will also be, I mean, they should also be posted on the switches on site. So the idea with switches on, and we should maybe, Frank, we should maybe show them your website. The idea is you can go to switcheson.org and find the incentives part. I have actually a direct link to that part on our website. Go to switcheson.org, the incentives part, and you just put in your zip code. And the idea is you can just, like it's a clearinghouse, like you can go there and all the incentives that you're eligible for, or that you should be eligible for. I think it's going to get more complicated for the income qualified things, but that you might be eligible for should pop up, right?
Yeah, I can go through it real quick if
Yeah, that might
you
be a
want.
good idea.
I also we have what we call ambassadors. So we have volunteers, and they shared with us how much money they saved stacking incentives. So I'll just drop this in there so you guys can see the amount of money that could potentially be saved. Again, he's in the Bay Area. All the incentives in the Bay Area aren't here in SoCal, but you can get an idea if you really look to see and find incentives, and if they're stackable, it can save you some money. So I'll just put it in the chat and you guys can access it on your time. But yeah, let me go through our website so you can see how it works. It's fairly easy. Let me see if I have permission to share.
We need permission to share.
Okay. Alrighty. So it's switcheson.org. And you just go to our tab here that says switch, click that down. You can find a contractor or an incentive. I'll start with contractor. You type in your zip code. What's a good zip code over there?
Let's use mine, 90026. Actually, shoot, I should have done a one because this is really for CD4. Let's use 90027. That's CD4.
So you just type that in there. Type in the appliance you're looking for this contractor to install. Let's go with water heater. Actually, we'll do a heat pump HVAC, and then we'll search. So here you go. They are all here. They're all TechClean California certified. In time, next week, when we launch the HERA incentives, there will also be a badge that
Well, I
says
wanted to
HERA
remind you, we do
certified.
have HERA incentives now, but they're for multifamily. The multifamily ones are open now,
Yeah.
but they might not
Okay,
be on your
so
website. You said they're not on your website yet,
they're
right?
not on that now. Yeah,
Okay,
then
okay.
the HVAC heat pump incentives, the $4,000 to $8,000 incentive, those are what I'm referring to, and those will be live on our site
Okay.
starting next, I believe, Wednesday. Next
Okay.
Wednesday. So, and then there'll be another badge here that says HERA. So, click that contractor, and none of these contractors pay us to be here. So go through them. We're not putting any special ones at the top. This is all. And if you are a contractor and you want to be on here, there's information on our website how to enroll as a TechClean California contractor and how to become HERA certified. So that is that's how the contractor tool works. Very easy. It happens the same way with incentives. What was that zip code again?
90027.
90027. And then we will pick space heating cooling. And here we go. So you can already see TechClean California's here. So, and again, these incentives are stackable. So you can stack this with the HERA incentive that is going to be released if you're income eligible. And just how there are like guidelines, what the requirements are, who can apply for it, building type. You click this and it takes you to the TechClean California website where where you and your contractor will fill out the actual application. But here's some overview knowledge, and the HERA ones will look just like that. And
Thank you.
That's it. It's pretty easy.
So let's talk about income eligibility, and then let's make sure to talk about condo folks and renters. We got to make sure we're being inclusive of everybody. So let's talk about the income piece, and then let's make sure to talk about condo folks and renters. And then maybe we should open it up for folks to ask questions if we're not missing anything, any other big items. So
I can start off.
Okay.
Yeah. I will also say if you are a homeowner, before I move on, and your renters fall in those income guidelines, you are eligible for the incentives, for the HERA incentive. So that kind of helps. The homeowner, the landlord, is not the income eligible one. It's the renters. So that may help a renter talk to their landlord about electrifying their home. So that's one way you can help your landlord electrify. The other ways might be, I mean, not too expensive. There's not a lot of rebates that we have for renters, but you could take the initiative, like what I've done in my apartment. You know, I can't replace my stove, but there's like portable technology that you can use. Instead, like you can use I have a dual induction hob that I got off Amazon for like $200, and I just use that. And I never use my gas stove. I don't need to. I think two burners is all I need. I don't cook more than 2 things at once. And so that's how I have electrified my kitchen. Another way is they have portable heat pumps. I don't know that there's any incentives out for those right now, but they can get kind of costly, but you can have a portable heat pump to heat and cool your home too.
So wait, sorry, I'm going to back up because I wanted to make sure we talked about the income eligibility piece before we went to renters. And then I want to talk about, I do want to talk about the mobile heat pumps. I want to hear from Valentina about that. So we're jumping around a smidgen, but can you talk a little bit, so for income eligibility, for the Inflation Reduction Act, or sorry, HERA incentives, is there a range? And then does that range apply to all HERA programs, or does it depend on the program? Do we know yet? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it does. I don't know if it applies to all right now. I just know about this specific HVAC HERA incentive. And it's a mouthful. I can read all of the percentages and where you fall, but I don't think any of us will know if we fall in that category. So I think it's best to just wait till that tool comes out where we can easily just plug in a few information about ourselves, and then we'll know.
Yeah, and I put in a link in the chat earlier to the rewiringamerica.org site. They have a really great IRA calculator that one of the inputs is your income level, and that helps to filter that the available incentives, including the rebates. So that's a good way to it isn't just one number because it's based on AMI, right? So that's going to vary by region and location.
And
so
AMI is area median
median
income?
income, yeah.
Okay.
It's like a percentage of that.
Okay,
And then
thank
there's
you.
other utility programs that are income based. I know, SCE has a few specifically income eligible programs around electrification on our website, but most of the utilities do.
So it's the government, so they made sure to make it complicated, right? I mean, it's understandable, but I mean, I get it, but it's also frustrating.
Right.
But hopefully,
But they're there on the program websites. So,
okay,
when you go to determine your eligibility, the information's typically there.
okay, thank you. That's super, super, super helpful. Thank you.
Mhm.
And that might also be on our website. That might be one of the ones that you said when I took your class, your little training, that you said you really want to make sure is on the website. So I'll go and check. And if I didn't, I'll put it on our website. So thank you. Valentina, you are the one who taught me about these mobile heat pumps that work for certain renters. So I would love for you to tell all of us about those.
Yeah, we had a contract with CalMTA, and we were able to provide for free 46 mobile heat pumps for heating and cooling. Some of them were for heating and cooling, some of them were just for cooling, which was really good in this like heat wave in LA. It was all around LA, and it was like a project that had to be developed like very fast, very quick. It was a 2 months project, and we provided these heat pumps, and we were doing a survey too. And after reviewing all the results from our surveys, we provided 3 different heat pumps. It was gradient units, Mejia units, and 2 type of Mejia, the saddleback and the U-shape. The U-shape, you can buy it in Home Depot. It's not too expensive. The gradient is more expensive, and most of them were working very well. All of them were DIY, so people had to install them, and then they gave us the feedback. They were very easy to install. Some of them were small and powerful units, like the Mejia U-shaped units, and all of them you can use them with an app. So people were very happy because they were like setting them up before coming home. So the home was like very fresh. People that had AC units before installing these, they said the bills went down. So were much more effective than the regular AC units. They were cooling very fast. They were not noisy, and they were very easy to operate. We had a very, very, very good feedback, and people were like amazed about how easy it was to install them in their houses. So almost everyone was very satisfied with the units. Yeah.
But I am doing things in the wrong order because I actually should ask. So I'm going to back up and ask Dave to explain, because we sort of jumped ahead. I bet not everybody here knows what a heat pump is or what the magic of a heat pump is. So Dave, can you explain that a little bit? And then I'm going to come back to you, Valentina.
Sure, I can do my best to kind of explain how it works. And Doug kind of teed it up a little bit earlier in terms of the efficiency. The first thing I would say is that a heat pump is not some radical, bizarre thing that's, no one's familiar with. You've had a heat pump in your house your entire life. Your refrigerator is a heat pump that operates in a single direction. Fundamentally, what a heat pump is it's a refrigerant loop with a set of coils, and it blows air over the coils, and it either removes or adds heat to the refrigerant depending on which side of the cycle it's on. So when we're talking about heat pumps in the case of like um, uh, space conditioning equipment, like air conditioner, it's a reversible loop that you can run that refrigerant either way and either draw heat from the outside and reject it into your house and make your house warmer, or you can operate it in the traditional way that we think of an air conditioner working, which is absorbing heat from inside your house and rejecting it to the outside. So you think of that refrigerant acting as a sponge, and depending on which side of the coil it's on and which direction it's running, the real difference, the only difference between a kind of traditional air conditioner, a one-way air conditioner, and a heat pump is two components. It's a reversing valve and a defrost controller. Because depending on outdoor conditions, how cold it is, how much humidity is in the air, you might get frost on that coil. So you do need to be able to control that and defrost that coil so that it can still absorb heat from the outside and have airflow over that coil. So hopefully that helped. You know, just think of it as a sponge that moves heat from one place to another, and you can decide which direction it's reversible.
Okay, thank you. I meant to ask that earlier. Go ahead, Doug, because yes.
That was an excellent explanation. For simple people like me, I simply say a heat pump moves heat.
Yeah.
Hot to cold or cold to hot. It doesn't generate heat by burning stuff. And when you combine that with a water heater, which is the technology I only found out about 3 years ago, you can combine a heat pump with an electric water heater, and it moves heat from the air into your water. And I've had one now for about 2 years, and its operating costs are 1/4 that of an electric water heater.
Thank you.
It uses so little power. Even my contractors, that as I said earlier, even my contractors had no clue about this when I asked them to install it.
Now, oh, right, and this is a problem, folks. I just want to say to everybody, contractors, I mean, especially if you folks become early adopters, you're going to be, I hate to break it to you. I mean, I'm a renter. I do have a duplex in Oregon, but Oregon is behind California. So Oregon is, you know, I'm not gonna, and I am poor, so I need to wait for Oregon to get these incentives going. Although Switches On is helping. You were helping with Oregon, right? You guys aren't you moving in Oregon soon, Frank?
Yeah, we're working with 10 states right now, but we're live
You're
in
working in Tennessee?
California. No, we will be we're trying to get into 10, we have 10 goal states right now, but
10
10
states.
TEN, but,
TEN.
10 states. I was like, 10.
but
Okay.
the Switch is On is currently live and operating in California and Washington State.
I saw Washington. Okay, so not Oregon yet. Okay. But anyway, my understanding is the heat pump water heaters are a bit prohibitively expensive. I mean, there are going to be incentives, but they're like really great, Doug, but they're expensive. Is that not true?
They are expensive, but after 3 years, you're making money because you're
Okay,
not paying the bill.
okay, because they're so efficient.
Yeah.
The payback time is so good, and I'm sure, Dave, you can maybe back me
Yeah,
up.
I mean, I can talk through a few factors, right, that affect cost, because not every installation is going to be the same. So the biggest piece of the cost is going to be if you need or opt for an electrical upgrade, even just running a line, adding a circuit, depending on how long that line goes. If your electrical panel isn't close to your water heater location, then that is going to add possibly as much cost as the unit itself. You know, the units run in the like probably $2,000 range, but if you take advantage of the tax credits and the incentives, you know, that can largely get offset. And then, you know, there are options, and this goes to some questions that were in the chat, and I know we're going to talk about electrifying without having to upgrade your panel.
Yes.
There are 120 volt water heaters, heat pump water heaters, where they only operate in heat pump mode. So heat pump mode is very efficient. Like I said, your refrigerator is a heat pump. That compressor in the heat pump is not terribly different in terms of its size and its operation than the heat pump that's in your refrigerator. And no one really ever worries about adding the electrical load of a second refrigerator in their garage, right? Um, so where the larger load comes is if you have a hybrid unit, which has the electric resistant element in it, in addition to the heat pump functionality, that's where you get the higher wattage draw. You need the higher amperage for that. And that's going to be the bigger driver of electrical upgrades. And potentially also the bigger driver of cost, because as Doug mentioned, it's 3 to 4 times as expensive to run electric resistance mode than it is heat pump mode.
Okay, we have a lot of technical questions in the chat, and we've got a panelist raising her hand. How sad. Valentina, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen also in some houses that people use the water heaters are producing cold air. So some people, what they do is they use that cold air and put it like a refrigerant or cooling the house. So they put a duct that goes inside of the house and it's making one of their bedrooms cooler. So you have two in one. You can take advantage of the technology and you can have your water heater and you can also have like one of the bedrooms cooler. So that's also another advantage. I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, so I think there are so many good questions in the chat. I want to get to them, but I want to first get to, now that we understand heat pumps better, I want you to explain these mobile heat pumps, which are good for renters, but only for certain buildings. Can you explain which types of buildings those work for, Valentina?
Yes, this was one of the main challenges we had because these mobile heat pumps were only for people living in a unit with vertical windows. So these windows that you can open from in a vertical way, like from lower to upper side. So that was one of our challenges because that's not very common in Los Angeles. Those are like more like old buildings. And yeah, that was quite difficult, but there are still like a lot of people that were able to do it. We had like a lot of people like signing up for this program. And yeah, that was one of the main roadblocks. And I wanted to say something, but I just forgot. Oh no, just talking about the panel upgrades. I just came the idea. We were working in Wilmington in single family residences with single family residents. And we installed 21 heat pumps. People think that they always have to upgrade the panel. And that's one of the most, like the most common fears that
It's expensive.
so it's expensive, and also according to the Clean California studies, it's one of the most like common fears. But in the case, I mean, in Wilmington, we work with very old houses, and we just had to upgrade one panel from these 21. Of course, we had some like add some different switches and like do work around. And as Dave said, these are like big projects because first you have to check with electrician. So we were bringing the electrician, then bringing the plumber the next day. So it's a whole project, but not always you need to upgrade your panel. So it's
Yes, thank
important.
you. I did want to talk about that. We do have some information on our website about that. Yes, thank you, Frank. That I think we have that on our website. So yeah, you don't always have to. Frank put in a great resource. There are workarounds. And so if any other panelists want to weigh in on that, now is the time.
I would just mention some stove technology that's recently come to market. There's at least one manufacturer that has a 120 volt induction stove that has an onboard battery, and the battery serves two functions. One, it charges, just kind of trickle charges off of a standard 120 volt outlet, and then it uses that battery to boost the power when you need more than what 120 volt can provide while you're cooking. So if you're going to boil water, that's more power than if you're just, like browning a tortilla or simmering, sauce or whatever, right? Or maybe you have multiple burners going, and that's when you need that power boost. The other benefit of the battery, of course, goes to the earlier question in the chat is, what if there's a power outage? How am I going to cook? If you have a battery on board that has a robust storage, that can provide you a fair amount of cooking during that that duration of that outage.
And our board member says, yeah, but it costs over 6K.
Like I said, that's the first one new to market. We're going to see more and more of these things. You know,
Okay.
like all of these technologies, as we get more market penetration, as we get more installers that are familiar with the technology, you know, um, a lot of contractors, if they're not familiar with the technology, if you're the first one they put in, you're going to be paying for their learning curve. They're they're going to price in, they're going to price in that uncertainty factor. You know, they're uncertain, like, am I going to get callbacks? Am I going to have to do this twice? I'm going to, you know, they're looking at the hours it's going to take them to do it. And if they're not like looking ahead that this is the future and I want to build my business around this, I want to invest in it, it's like, fine, I'll do this for you as a favor, but it's going to cost you. So that's why, you know, finding contractors that are familiar with these kinds of technologies is really important to getting decent bids.
Can I add a fun fact?
Yes, we love fun facts.
My induction stovetop heats water twice as fast as gas. At the same time, it doesn't heat the house up, which a lot of people complain the gas heaters put a lot of heat into their house when they're cooking over summer.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. Yes. Huge difference for sure. Let's talk condos for a minute because I didn't think about condos, which was not very inclusive of me. So I have no thoughts on condos, but Charles does and Dave does, and maybe others do. So I don't even have a question because I wasn't thinking about them. So Dave or Charles, please say something about condos.
Dave, go ahead. You're the expert here.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Good. Well, I mean,
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
I
no,
was the one who
yeah,
I was the one who put the long thing in the chat
yeah.
about how, you know, a lot of condos face a situation where you've got 70 amp or 90 amp panels and you want to upgrade, and even the HOA is maybe cool with you upgrading, but the main power that comes from LADWP is not sufficient for everybody in the building to do that, so that you could run all these you know, 220, 240, whatever volt appliances. And so, yeah, you address that somewhat with the new induction coil that has the battery, which is still cost prohibitive. So I don't know how, and for most people. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about a condo where most of the condos we have right now are in these, you know, 25 unit buildings, and they've got gas water heater, gas HVAC, gas dryer, and gas stove and oven. And you know, you could maybe do a little bit of that on the panel you have, but there's no way you could do it all. And you know, and certainly as people try to matriculate toward that in the building, you get into more and more issues. Do you know of anything that the city's planning? Because I also look at the issue of, like, the block I live on, the transformers are all maxed out by LADWP in our neighborhood. So we encountered all this when we were trying to put in EV chargers, and we found workarounds for power sharing for that, but we're already using a lot of the capacity for that as well.
Yes, I can't speak to what LADWP's plans are specifically. I know that Edison and most utilities in California are looking at their long-range plans for how they're going to accommodate electrification. The policy direction is pretty much going to be eventually that, you know, electric end uses are all you can really um, buy. So again, going with the lower voltage options are going to be a real important solution for panel constrained sites. And the link that Frank put in the chat for the watt diet calculator outlines a whole range of strategies that can help with that. There's also load splitting devices that are listed there where you do need something that's on like a 240 volt, or yeah, 240 volt higher amperage type of outlet, so that say you have your water heater and your dryer that are both on that higher voltage, but they share a circuit. So you set a priority that if you're drying clothes, you're not heating water, right? So it shuts one off, so they won't ever run at the same time, because the panel size isn't necessarily constrained by what you have connected to it. It's constrained by the
The
loads it
load.
might see, the max load it might see. So there's a number of different strategies for ensuring that that loading never gets exceeded. There's also smart panels that can do all of that. Like they act as a brain that they'll manage all the different loads. So you can have, higher amperage things connected to it, and the panel will have the circuitry to know how to ramp certain things down or turn certain things off so that you don't exceed the capacity. I'd also note in condos, because you have the HOAs, and if you have um, a group that's fairly amenable to the thought of electrification, then you have group purchasing power, right? You can organize and work with contractors to do a larger project that may help to bring costs down because you can do it all at once.
I think it's important, though, we acknowledge that those kind of power sharing strategies are going to be a difficult sell for people in terms of getting them to think about things differently. Like, you might have to turn off your air conditioner to run your dryer, or something
Well,
like that.
typically it's going to be loads that are easily paused, like a water heater. If you have enough hot water in the tank, and it's just kind of getting it back up to full temperature or full capacity, it can pause that for a little bit while you dry a load of clothes and then resume. If you have an electric vehicle charger that's on that load splitter, and you just need to have enough power in the morning to drive your car the distance you need to, you don't need it charging all night, right? So that's often a candidate for doing that kind of load splitting. So you're picking the things that are intermittent and are easily paused, and then can just resume again and provide that service you need.
Thank you.
Okay, and we do have a couple landlords. What should we be? And I'm a landlord, and my challenge is, like you were talking about, I'm a landlord in Oregon. I would love to be able to afford to be a landlord here. That would be the dream. Living the dream, dreaming the dream. My challenge is, like a lot of what you're talking about is the payoff. Like you're talking about, like these heat pump water heaters. The payoff, like, yeah, they're really expensive, but you get the payoff in a few years. Well, the payoff is for the tenant. You know what I'm saying?
It's called the split incentive, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Split incentive.
Yeah.
So sounds great, but anyway, that's one of the things I'm thinking of. So anyway, and we can close this up and open it up to the participants. But I'm an environmentalist. I want to do the right thing, but how do you manage the split incentive?
I
Valentina.
just want to add something. It's also increasing the value of your property. So
Good point. Fair enough.
that's what we are saying to the homeowners. Is we had some cases where they were just about to sell their houses, and we were telling them, you can install these and you can increase include the cost of these.
Although I will say, in my case, the property is in Oregon and the property is already all electric, so I'm in a slightly different situation. Not gas.
Yeah, and this is where, for a landlord or a homeowner, again, the key is to have a plan, because most people aren't going to think about changing their appliance until point of failure, until
Yes.
something's going wrong with it. Then you're in an emergency situation, and if you haven't thought ahead and think, okay, when this fails, what do I need to have in place so that I can readily and conveniently be ready to do this, or when it's starting to make that rattling sound, I can act. Because if you're in a situation, your water heater just blew, you have no hot water, and you can't get an electrician out for weeks, maybe you could do the 120 volt unit, but are there other things you need to do to make your property ready? So just thinking ahead about, okay, what preparation do I need so that when this intervention point happens, I can make the low carbon choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just, oh,
Go ahead,
go
Frank.
ahead, Lisa. Okay, I would also like to add a little thing with what Dave was saying, and you can confirm this, Dave and Doug. Don't some of these appliances like heat pump water heaters last 5 to 10 years longer than a gas water heater because of the efficiency and how well they work? So that could also be an incentive for a landlord to switch.
Doug, you're muted.
You're
You look
muted,
like
Doug.
you're adding something, but we can't hear you.
Sorry, asleep at the wheel here. I've had my heat pump water heater for 2 years, and I've never used the resistance heating, which is the high current heating. It's all been heat pump heated. So it is incredibly efficient. And I would guess that that water heater should last a lot longer than a standard electric water heater, and probably last longer than a gas water heater, because you just, with a gas water heater, you're just heating up a cylinder going through the middle of your cylinder. So that's very, very inefficient.
Yeah, the comment I would make about equipment duration is regardless of the type of equipment, they're going to require maintenance that you need to do or it's going to shorten the life. So similar to the way that, gas tankless water heaters usually have valves at the bottom that you can attach a pump to, so you can do a descale. You're supposed to do that every year so that the scale doesn't build up. Similarly for, heat pump water heaters, you're going to need to have some kind of water preconditioning before you install it. You're supposed to check for water hardness to see how that might impact the life of the equipment. And then there's also, because of the compressor, you need to make sure that you're regularly cleaning the air filter, because if that gets clogged, your heat pump won't work efficiently. And when it's installed, you need to make sure you have access to that filter. I've seen plenty of installations where they just run the pipes right over the access panel. You'll never get that filter out. So those types of things can really muck up the durability of your equipment.
Correct. But funnily enough, half an hour before this meeting, I checked the filter in my heat pump water heater, which had been running for 2 years, and it was clear. There was no debris or anything needed to be removed from it. But like anything, you've got equipment, it needs to be maintained and checked. You need to be aware of that. And on the descaling side of things, yes, I think that's more important if you're running resistant element heatings and tankless water heaters. But as I said, I'm not
Yeah.
using my heating elements, so they're.
But a hybrid water heater does have a resistance heating element, and some people will have it operating in that mode. So you just need to make sure that you follow the manufacturer's instructions on that. And I have 3 cats in my house, so I know that filter's gonna need to be changed, regularly. But yeah.
All right, thank you. Let's open it up because we don't have time is a funny thing, and suddenly we don't have that much time. So let's open it up to participants because we've had a lot of questions in the chat that we have not gotten to. So board members, can you please unspotlight people? There's got to be a better word than unspotlight, but I don't know what it is. And folks, you've put things in the chat that we haven't gotten to. If you could raise your hand and maybe ask them if you would like to. Okay, AJ, you, I think, are up first. I have, what is that? Okay, I think I just need to accept this little bar so that message goes away. AJ, go ahead and ask your question or make your comment. And introduce yourself first, please.
So my name is AJ. I'm the chair of the energy committee for the LA-NCSA, and I've been kind of asking this question for quite some time with the push for electrification. And I'm not a homeowner, but just speaking from experience on projects that I have in my background as I work in the solar industry. So I've been exposed to circumstances where homeowners have had to do panel upgrades. So in speaking about the homeowners who have to do panel upgrades on structures who have underground services where their wires are running with lead cables and galvanized piping, usually what happens is when the utility like Edison or LADWP tells them that they have to do a service upgrade, it's not just limited to the panel. So you're talking maybe up to $20,000 of work if you're lucky, somebody to have to make those infrastructure upgrades in addition to the panel upgrade. So I think with all of those facts said, my question is, I'm not against this, but how do you expect to sell that to a homeowner basically in that situation? And let's just speak in circumstances that an electrician did their due diligence, did their load assessment, said that, nope, you're at capacity, you need a panel upgrade.
That was over my head. Does any of the panelists want to take that?
Yeah,
Dave,
I'll note, there's no question that underground adds complication. The overhead lines, because they're exposed to air, typically can dissipate heat more, so they have better capacity to be able to uh, accommodate additional load. Um, the uh, the additional issue, obviously, with undergrounding is you have trenching and all those additional costs. So those certainly complicate those installations. Um, and uh, that's I don't know if I have a great answer to how those costs can be reduced, other than working with your utility or the neighborhood groups to come up with more of a neighborhood plan. But uh, it's challenging, and again, the goal is ultimately, to get as many people to full electrification as possible. But if all you can do is piece by piece and target your largest end uses, do what you can when you can, and embrace the solutions as they come. I wish I had a better answer.
Thank you.
okay, Nikki.
I'm sorry, I got a glimpse and didn't really get it clear in my head about the heat pump hot water heater. I know there was the dual one, which sounds very enticing, but also Valentina mentioned you can use the extra cooling to cool a bedroom that's close to where the hot water heater is. Is that what she said?
Yes, well, I just saw one case where people were like doing some like changes to the house, and they put like a duct that was taking all that cool air and getting that air inside of a bedroom. So, I mean, you can work with someone that can do that, because this heat pump water heater was just exactly outside of this bedroom. So depending on where is the water heater, there's a chance that you can do that.
Yeah, it's outside my bedroom wall, and that sounds like a great idea, because then we could turn our HVAC down at night, and our bedroom, we're retirees, so it's just the two of us. Our bedroom would be cool to sleep. That sounds fabulous.
Yeah, I thought the same. It was such a genius idea, and it's like very efficient way to use that same air, some cool air.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'll provide a small amount of additional cooling. It'll only provide it while the heat pump is running, right? So it won't be like a thermostat where you set a temperature and say I want this, right? And then you'll also get, if you're in heating mode in winter, you're going to be potentially getting some additional cold air coming from your heat pump. You're going to have to kind of overcome with your heating system. But yeah, it does provide a tiny amount of pre-cooling, in the same way that if you reach your hand at the bottom of your fridge at that grill when it's running, you can feel a little warm air coming out. It's kind of equivalent to that.
Thanks.
Oh, the comment I'd say though, and it was in the chat earlier about noise. So, do be careful when locating heat pump water heaters near bedrooms, just because there is a noise factor. It varies by model, so they all have the noise ratings on them. They not that different than like a modern dishwasher, something like 45 decibels. So it can be noticeable. If you are going to have it located near a sleeping area, it's a good idea to look at isolation pads or other measures to mitigate that noise a little bit, possibly an extra layer of drywall in that closet.
Thank you. That's helpful.
All good information. Thank you.
Scott.
Hi, thank you very much. Scott Mandel, Studio City resident. Right now I'm at the DWP, California ISO, and Intermountain websites. And my question is, as far as swapping out gas appliances for electricity, what I'm seeing is that gas is going to be used to power the electrical appliances, at least in the near term, 10, 20 years. Right now, the California grid is over 20% fueled by natural gas. Many mornings when I check the Cal ISO, it's at 60% or greater burning natural gas, plus imports, which we can't rely on, plus large hydro, which we can't rely on during dry years. DWP is the operating agent of Intermountain, and they burn 4 million tons of coal using 20,000 acre feet of water a year to provide electricity to the Southern California. So I'm just puzzled at the talk of electrification, not just for homes, but for everything in the state. And the electricity is being powered by, in large parts, by gas, natural gas, and for the short term, for a few more years, coal. So how do you square that? Are we jumping the gun on getting rid of gas appliances when we're using gas to make the electricity? Thank you.
Okay, I think I'll take this one and I'll let Dave take it after me if I'm getting anything wrong. But because we, the LANCSA, have been very involved in the LA 100 effort to get LADWP off of coal and to 100% energy. We just actually had our energy committee AJ was at Tuesday night, 2 nights ago. And I was dismayed to realize that we're not moving as quickly as I had thought, but our target is to be 100%, and sounds like you know most of this, it sounds like, Scott, but our goal is to get off of, to get to 100% clean renewable energy by 2035, and apparently we're only going to be at like to 80% by 2030. I had thought it was going to be much higher, but we're going to be off of coal by, I think, in like 2025 or something. So we're not doing, I'm not going to say we're doing great because we need to be moving much more quickly, but we are moving there. And I think we're at like maybe 60% or so now. So we're getting there. And so we need to be doing all of this. So our power supply for our electricity is getting cleaner. And Dave,
Yeah, I'd love to add a few comments. So a couple of things. One, statewide in California, we're currently at 60% carbon neutral electricity. That includes nuclear, which doesn't have emissions associated with it. It has other kind of arguable characteristics. But in terms of the gas component, yeah, that's coming down each year. We had statewide last year, there were 7 days where we had 100% wind, water, and solar for at least 15% or a 15-minute period over the course of any given day. This year we have had 115 days, such days and counting. The amount of battery storage on the grid has been roughly doubling every year. We're now past 10 gigawatts, which is equivalent to 4 nuclear power plants worth of dispatchable storage. We passed a milestone earlier this year where batteries were the predominant source of grid on of electricity on the grid on April 16th, meaning that for a 2-hour period, we had more solar on the grid, even when the sun wasn't shining, than any other source. And during this past spring, we used 28% less natural gas than we had the previous spring. So we're definitely trending that direction. The thing I would say additionally is, as Doug pointed out, heat pumps are 4 times as efficient as a comparable combustion appliance, 3 to 4 times depending on ambient conditions. So you're using a third to a quarter of the energy. So even if you're burning gas and running 100% gas electricity, you're still coming out roughly even in terms of the amount of gas burned if it was 100% gas. But we're talking, depending on the time of year, time of day, that gas percentage varies. But the emissions from heat pumps are significantly less. And I can link to an RMI, Rocky Mountain Institute study that shows state by state, using the current grid and projected future grids, how a heat pump compares to a fossil fuel driven appliance in terms of emissions. And in, I believe, every state today in the lower 48, that a heat pump beats a gas appliance, and that only gets cleaner and better every year.
Yeah, if you could share that would be very helpful. Thank you. I don't know if that helps, Scott, but I mean, I think it's a great question, but I think we have a great answer personally. Susan.
Yeah, thank you for this informative Zoom. I just stumbled across it today. I'm in the middle of a renovation of my kitchen, and I haven't used my Viking gas stove for a year. I've been using like a hot plate, which has been fine. But I'm concerned when I talk to people, they say, well, the gas stove is going to cost you much less than the electricity is going to cost you. And then I heard about this, rewiring. Is there somebody that trustworthy that can come up and consult with me on what I should do? Because everybody would say it'd be just cheaper to keep the gas. I have to put in a gas line for it because I moved everything around in the kitchen. But I'm just about to start this renovation in a couple of weeks after waiting a year. And I'm an environmentalist, so I want to do the right thing, but I'm also on a fixed income, so I have to be realistic. So is there anyone that can come and give me some good advice and come up to the house?
The thing I can say about cooking is it in terms of volume of energy usage, it's pretty insubstantial in terms of your total energy budget. I think Doug had mentioned water heating in a mild climate like LA is like 75%. So it depends on how much you're cooking and when, but say that your rate is, and I don't know what DWP's rates are, but you know, SCE's rates probably somewhere between 20 and 40 cents, depending on when you're using that. A kilowatt hour is it's a kilowatt run for a total hour. So if you're cooking for an hour and you're using a kilowatt, that's like 20 to 40 cents a day. And you can compare that to what it might cost for gas, but relative to some of your other uses, I suspect that the cooking piece is not going to be the biggest driver in your bill.
And what about the heat pump? If somebody, talked me into a new air conditioner last year, so I spent quite a bit of money on that. But if I got a heat pump, you said I could just use it for the heat part and keep the air conditioner that I have, or?
No, so you can keep like a furnace as a backup with a heat pump, but really the heat pump is the air conditioner that runs two directions. So if you just got a new air conditioner, that's probably not going to be your first project, is swapping that out with a heat pump, because you theoretically you could put in a heat pump for just heating and like have two systems, but that's a real expensive way to do that. I don't think that's feasible.
And I also, my water heater blew in December, so I had to buy a new water heater, and I wasn't sure what to do. I asked the guy about tankless. I guess that's the alternative. Is that the water heater that you recommend, a tankless?
So that's a gas tankless. You wouldn't do electric tankless because those require a really, really high. I don't think you actually even do it by code, but their demand draw is really high. It's like 7 to 10 kW. You would want to put in a heat pump if you can, if you have space. If you have an existing tank and you can fit the heat pump, that's going to be your best option for
So what you're
electrification.
kind of saying is that in my situation, it doesn't really make sense to go to an induction stove and put that in because it doesn't
No, I
make
mean,
a
I
difference.
That is
think it
not what
does.
Dave is.
No, not on the stove. I
Not
think
what he's saying.
what I'm saying is that you're probably going to see a negligible cost difference between cooking gas versus electric.
So what would be the point, just for the environment, as you're saying?
Well, I mean, you have better indoor air quality, so you're not introducing things like methane, benzene, formaldehyde, nitrogen dioxide, and carbon monoxide into your interior environment. You're also going to have better speed and control with your cooking, and it's also going to be better for the environment.
And that would be with an induction stove, and I would get some kind of rebate for that?
I don't know if DWP has rebates. Most of the rebates are focusing on the heat pump technologies, the water heating and space heating, because those are the big energy users and those are the big emission sources. So
Okay.
policies are focusing on those technologies.
All right, thank you.
Doug, go ahead. And then we have to close out. I don't know if we can get to you, Kim, because we have.
Very quick 15-second fun fact. I calculated what it cost to cook a meal on an induction cooker, and it was a nickel. They're not expensive.
And what does it cost on a gas stove?
More. Sorry, it's very hard to measure that small amount of gas. But as
And would I have to upgrade my panel to put in an induction in my electricity panel?
well, didn't one of our panelists here say that they had bought one that can just plug into 110 volts and they do all their cooking on it now?
I mean,
That's why I asked, is there somebody, a contractor that you recommend to come up and that you trust to consult with me on this? Because I don't want to, I have to make this decision pretty quickly.
Do you know what your current panel size is?
No.
Okay, because if you have a 100 amp panel, there's a good chance that you could add just one 240 volt outlet, but you're going to need an electrician to assess what your current loads are and if you have capacity to add a stove.
And those are the contractors that are on your website?
Well,
that I
any
would call?
electrician can give you that assessment in terms of can that panel add that load.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
okay, let's see. I think, Cam, do you have something very, very, very quick, maybe?
Yes, I just wanted to tell Susan, if she goes to the Orange County Climate Reality Project website under events, there's a Zoom event called the Ask Sean Show. And he is a contractor and he can answer all these questions. A lot of times I've been to one of his calls and he does case studies. So you might be able to contact someone at Orange County Climate Reality Project and ask them if you could be their case study. And then he can walk you through what you need to do.
Yes, and we have information
Thank
about
you.
him on our website as well, because he's the Redwood Energy guy who I think was information about him was put in the chat. So, but that's a great idea. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, I want to make one announcement. We have time for announcements now. If you have not put your zip code in tonight, please do, because tonight we do want to know where you live. Also, if somebody from the board could please put in, speaking of our website, a link to our website in the chat, the Electrify LA website, that would be very helpful because we do have a lot of information connected to tonight on our website. I know we did not, I don't think we answered every question in the chat. So I will maybe try to figure out how we can answer those questions. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, but I will try. I certainly do not know the answer to every question in the chat because this is outside of my area of expertise. We have a related event. Speaking of this sort of thing, we have an induction cooktop demonstration and tasting Tuesday at Studio City Branch Library. And if one of our board members could put that link in the chat, that would also be helpful. And if you could spread the word about that, that would be helpful as well. That's my announcement. Oh, and next, we don't have a posting for this yet, but next month, it's going to be a super, super interesting event. I am on the LA 28 Sustainability Working Group. And so the LA 28 sustainability staff are going to come next month. That's going to be November 17th. They're going to come and talk to us about what they've been up to, what we've been up to, and you'll be able to talk to them and give your suggestions for what the Olympics and Paralympics should look like. This is actually a super special, rare opportunity. So please consider joining us. And if anybody else has any brief announcements, now is your opportunity to make them, and then we will close out. And thank you very, very much for joining us. And we will continue to have other related events like this because I'm working on this with the DWP, and more HERA incentives are coming out, and we want to make sure that you are aware of them. So we will continue to work to get the word out to you about these. So Charles, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know, if they're not aware, that we have a program called Lawn to Habitat that's accepting
yes.
applications right now.
Thank you.
I'm putting the link in the chat, and essentially it's a situation where a coalition that we've put together will come in and convert a multifamily residential property from grass and or tropical plants to California native plants with water capture features, and support biodiversity and give you a really cool way to get butterflies and pretty flowers in your lawn. And lots of information there. Application is open right now.
And closes November 15th, we think. So thank you, Charles, for remembering that. And if nothing else, I want to thank Doug and Dave and Frank and Valentina for your expertise. Such a wealth of knowledge. I'm so grateful to all of you for coming tonight and sharing your expertise with us. This is fantastic. So I'm very grateful to all of you. Thank you. And I think that's it. Good night, you folks.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good meeting.